Welcome to Dojo Live, the place where top minds in travel and hospitality check in to share insights and breakthroughs shaping the industry. Brought to you by Encora, your trusted partner for AI, cloud, and data-driven innovation. Enjoy your stay. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Encora's Dojo Live, where we have candid conversations with industry leaders tackling the biggest technology challenges in travel and hospitality. I'm your host, Kim Lantis, and today we're diving into episode number 2 of our Unlocking Revenue Insight from Hospitality's RMS Leaders series. Today, we're going to be discussing how data literacy is transforming hospitality operations. And I'm not doing it alone. Joining me today as co-host is Nagaraj Sastry, SVP of Data and Analytics at Encora. Hello, Nagaraj. How are you?
I'm doing very well and looking forward to having a great conversation with Alan.
All right. I love it. Is there any one thing you're looking forward to the most?
Mm, Very good question, which made me
All
think
right.
for a
We'll,
word.
we'll get that, we'll get to that at
Finishing
the
his sandwich.
end.
Data product.
I
I'm,
love it.
I'm I'm more interested in understanding what Alan thinks in terms of from a revenue management system, from a data literacy perspective, and how does it impact data products within the travel and hospitality industry? Because experience is something which is very, very critical in this industry.
It is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And we have here Alan Young with us, VP of Hospitality Strategy at Infor, who's going to unpack that topic. Alan, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. To kick us off real quick, I've quickly learned there's pretty much no one in the industry that you do not know or who doesn't know you, but we still want to know a bit about your background and Infor, the key challenges you're helping to solve.
Sure. So I've been in the hospitality industry now for about 43 years, give or take. And I started in operations. I started working in hotels. I morphed into technology about 25 years ago, representing companies that sold technology solutions to the hospitality and airline sector. And through that time, I've just been able to grow my knowledge and obviously grow my network based upon what you said, that there's nobody that doesn't that I don't know. But it's not true. I think when you look at a certain level of individuals within the industry, people that have been around for a while, I'm lucky to have known a great deal of them. And I keep on meeting new people all the time, which is great too, which shows our industry is growing and people are excited to be a part of it.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. I thought we'd kick off by starting a little simple, leaning into your title, your conversation of choice. That is defining data literacy. What exactly is it, or how would you define it? And why is it becoming a must-have skill in hospitality and revenue management in particular?
Well, I think it's really more about the ability to read, understand, and create and communicate data as information. When we look at our industry as a whole, we've been mired in a sea of sameness related to products that are in the marketplace. There are a plethora of products that reside in a hotel that are making it work along the way, delivering services and knowledge to other individuals so they can go ahead and do their jobs better. However, that creates a problem where people are more focused on the actual products and the utilization of those products versus what comes out of them. A great example is any front desk that you go to. The first thing you do is you're greeted by somebody who's staring at a computer. And our industry's done that. It didn't happen by chance. We made that happen. And now we're realizing that we probably need to change that in order to expand the experiences for our guests. So when it comes to data literacy, it's really about people understanding data and applying it to their jobs, irrespective of what their operational positions may be. So from my perspective, it really needs to be something that is focused upon by every hotel company on the planet right now, because as we move to a more data-oriented society, it's important that everybody understands the game.
It actually makes a lot of sense. You kind of already touched a little bit on the challenges, having a computer in front of us all the time. But what are the biggest challenges hospitality teams are facing in making data-driven decisions kind of today? And, this is also leaning into your topic of conversation, how AI-powered tools like GPT and LLMs are breaking down traditional barriers to data access and also interpretation.
Well, if you take a normal hospitality technology landscape in a property, you've got a property management system. If you have food and beverage, you have a point of sale. If you have an events and banquets, you have a sales and catering solution. And the list goes on and on. And there are some hotel properties that could have upwards of 40 to 50 different systems residing in them. And they're all doing their own thing, chugging away and getting the job done. However, when it comes to really understanding what's going on, all of that data resides in silos. And we've been very remiss as an industry of opening up ourselves to others in order to fuel platforms with information in order to help our clients make better decisions. And so that time is changing. And so with all of these disparate systems, having the data siloed is challenging, but we're finding ways around that. And we're actually starting to cooperate as an industry, especially with what HT&G is doing associated with AHLA and their initiatives related to data sourcing and data management. And it's really quite interesting. But I think we've realized the fact that we can't do it on our own. And there isn't a single complete product that can do it all for a single hotel. So you're always going to have disparate systems in place. And as such, the data silo challenge is what we face the most. And then it's normalizing the data. You have structured data like rates and bookings information, et cetera. And then you have unstructured data like review content that you want to be able to go ahead and put those together within a data lake and go ahead and query that and enable somebody who's querying that to ask hypothetical questions to get recommendations from the platform, whether it's based on what do I do with my rates. There's a storm coming. We've gotten an amazing amount of awful reviews. What do I do? And so the system itself, by pulling from multiple sources of data, will be able to enhance the decision-making process on property. And so at Infor, what we've done is we've gone ahead and leveraged a data lake and our RMS in concert with a product called Hospitality Analytics and Insights that enable us to go ahead and use an LLM and a GPT-esque interface where people are querying the system with standard questions and the system is responding and giving them recommendations or giving them insights into the information.
Wow.
And so it's massively important, especially as we move through this process. And so we should have everybody able to do that, right? It's as easy as asking a question of Google, like, who is Alan Young? And the first thing that pops up is the voice of Mr. Ed, the talking horse back in the 50s and 60s.
I remember him.
Which is unfortunate. But after that, it may be me. So, it's really interesting how that works out.
It's amazing. Nagarash, listening to this, and one of my questions as I was hearing you at the beginning of the show, Alan, was, okay, it sounds good and well, but is it possible? Are we actually here? To which you already answered, yes, the usability with Infor. What's your take on this, Nagarash? What you're hearing about GPT, LLMs, what's possible?
See, a few pointers that Alan pointed out, which ring a bell very, very much with me, is in terms of from a data literacy standpoint, there are three things in which ChatGPT, LLMs are going to help out. One is the acquisition of knowledge. All these applications have a lot of knowledge in them, whether it is in terms of customer queries, whether it is in terms of how do you respond to the customer queries and all of that. There's a lot of knowledge that is gathered. The second important thing is there are events associated to a lot of knowledge that is gained. And how do you use the two together in order to create a better experience is the third aspect of data literacy. And from an application or a data and analytics perspective, you think through it, there are three things that you're trying to achieve. Number one, the ability to search. Alan did talk about it. Number two, the ability to share. Can I share content? Can I give recommendations? All of that. Number three is security. In
Mm,
terms of, is all my data secure? So these are three important aspects when it comes to data literacy and the creation of data products when you think about it holistically. But more importantly, there is one aspect that organizations, and I'm sure Alan will touch about it in the course of the conversation, is the entire thought process around data strategy.
Mhm.
In terms of data management, am I cataloging my data right? Are my business definitions right? Because 40, 50 different applications and mainframe is also there in the mix with no documentation at all. And chat gpt and all of these llms have made it easier to go back into the code and bring business rules out. But the whole concept is in terms of, am I defining my definitions right across
mm,
all these applications? And chat gpt or llms or generative ai, I'll refer it to as generative
Mhm.
ai, helps you in doing this. Think about it, and I'll take one more minute. I don't want to be in the way of Alan.
Oh my gosh. No,
What-
no, help yourself.
So, so one of the critical things is, and which at Encora we are doing, as you know, Kim already, is the ability of generative AI to go and look at applications.
mm,
So we have the ability today to go and look at applications, which is number of tables, number of front end screens, and all of that. Call out the business processes that are associated to it, which leads to the concept of culling out critical data elements. What are the most critical data elements associated to an application, and how are they defined within the application? Whether it is a COTS application or a custom application, what does this really mean? Is what generative AI can do for you. Now imagine 40, 50 different applications. You'll get 40, 50 different
Yep.
definitions for
mhm.
the same set of critical data elements. Now ChatGPT has got another LLM model, I forget the name, which actually goes into the whole thought process of saying that, okay, I've got so many definitions for a single term. Can I club all the definitions
Consolidate.
together? It does not club it in terms of updating it that way. It actually makes context out of it.
Mhm.
Mm,
Now imagine the power of that entire thought process. That
wow.
thought process will lead to a situation scenario where the data governance council, the data stewards, can look at these definitions and say, yeah, this is right, no, this is not right, this is the right definition. And as a result, what you get is an enterprise data glossary.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
It blows my mind as I'm looking at you, Alan and Nagarash, the builders behind this technology, and the fact that it's impossible and it's just growing at lightning speeds. But I want to take it down a little bit to what it means to the users of this technology, right? The hoteliers. One of the words that you talked about, Nagarash, was experience. So I'm
Mhm.
curious about, Alan, how this shift in data literacy and what's happening is impacting the decision making across hotels, and what that maybe means for the ripple effect on the guest experience, the employee experience, and ultimately the bottom line here, we are talking about revenue.
For sure. And ultimately the better experience you give a guest, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to return and actually probably spend more. Um, so when it comes to enabling rates and how rates are exposed and how they're managed effectively, sure. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are already embedded in our platform, and we're utilizing them all the time in order to give the right rates, the right recommendations to our clients. But when it really boils down to the experience side, we need to go ahead and amplify that by releasing or unchaining people from the technology that surrounds them. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it's not. If you look at how people are interacting with information right now, it's in a very linear fashion. I'm staring at
Mm,
something and I'm keying something into a phone or to a keyboard, and that's holding my concentration and my presence. But the keyword is present. When somebody's present in a conversation, that means they're looking at you in the eye and they're conversing and they're giving you basically the feedback or the interaction that is required. So we need to be able to empower them through the use of platforms to make those decisions for guests without them being encumbered. So in the future, and we're not there yet, but in the future, through the use of agentic AI and the next thing that'll come out is giving the individuals the chance just to ask questions verbally and get a response digitally back to them, whether that's through an earpiece or whatever, that enables them to really interact. So I'm old enough, and I'm going way back. In 1997, there was a group of companies that were with something called the Open Travel Alliance. And the Open Travel Alliance was put together to connect up hotels and airlines and car rental companies and all of the different systems together and used a single way for them to communicate. And they built out what was deemed an open standard. And in 1997, we recorded a video. It's about 11 minutes long. It was called The Traveler's Tale. And it showed two road warriors, one that basically did everything manually, and the other that utilized technology in order for him to enhance his trips, in order for him to be enabled to make decisions on the fly. And it included glasses that saw things and gave him ideas and told him whether his flight was going to be late. And today those are Ray-Bans, right? The new Ray-Bans that you can use. But we did this in 97 and we thought it was going to happen quickly. And what it didn't. It took us forever. And right now we're at the precipice of something fantastic. And what we envisioned in 1997 is now coming to fruition. But what's so super cool is we don't really know what's next. So even though I hypothesize about what it may look like or this may occur, if we're learning anything, the speed of technological advancement is outpacing every industry. And so the industries are trying to catch up to figure out how to utilize it effectively. So the hotel industry needs to embrace engagement. And in order for them to do that, they need to use systems that enable them to do that. The same thing for revenue management systems or analytics platforms. What they need to be able to do is just inform, educate, recommend, and then hypothesize if so required. But the interface with the platform should be as easy as the way we're conversing today. And that to me is kind of like panacea for our industry. If we can just be conversing and getting information and we trust the data, that's another element. And then it's governed properly, which is another element. But still at the same time, if we can do all that, revenue management practices, analytics and insights and business intelligence solutions will all become amplification tools for us to make better decisions.
Well, this leans into a term that I came across while reading some of the information and content that Infor has produced, emphasizing what you call inclusive data engagement. And I think maybe that what's next is the accessibility, the engagement. I think you said the presence is the word that you used. Do you have examples of what that looks like in practice? Like how are we making data more accessible to the non-technical user?
So through a GPT-esque interface, that's the easiest way in my mind for the baby steps to occur, right? To interface with a platform that has data within it, to query that data in whatever manner, shape, or form I want to. So, for example, if I was an executive housekeeper and I knew I had 100 turns today, but I also knew the fact that I have a new supplier that may be offering me a better deal on towels or even the cleaning of those towels, and that can be interjected into the platform, I can start querying the platform about, my costs are starting to rise related to laundry and towels. there are 3 different suppliers that are fueling the lake. I want to go ahead and figure out which supplier I should really be utilizing. Oh, and which supplier is also the most sustainably evident in the marketplace. Are they utilizing sustainable practices, right, to make sure that they're doing that right? And it's all about the data streams. The more data streams we have coming into the data lake, the more it's going to be accessible for individuals within the property. If I'm a sales and marketing person, obviously I want to know what's going on with my competitive set, whether it's local, whether it's regional, or whether it's statewide. But then I also want to go ahead and see what's going on. And I want to have a holistic view of what's going on in the region. So is there a feed I can get from a local DMO or CVB or their platform that helps me pull in all the event information and all the demographics that are associated with those events? And then I can start querying it. So the use case right now, the easiest one is to use that GPT ask interface in order to ask it questions and let it deliver responses back. And it's irrespective of operations position within the hotel. It could be the food and beverage person asking about recipes and what's going on with the recipe calculations within the F&B system, right? So there's all different ways to query it, but if the recipes are off and I know I've got a group of people that have ordered this, now I can just ask it questions rather than having to work my way through multiple spreadsheets or multiple platforms in which to get the right question
Or
answered.
even ask it things like substitutions. Oh no,
Of
the
course.
supplier fell through and I no longer have this
Exactly.
price, but I do have this one, or
You
whatever it
could.
might be.
It is somewhat unlimited in its capability, and that's what makes it somewhat awe-inspiring. So it really will be down to the use cases and how do we use it as effectively as we can so it doesn't become something like a video game that we're all just kind of playing around with and getting all this cool information back. But we're kind of in that phase right now where it's like a big brand new shiny toy, and we're trying to figure out how to proactively harness it. But if we can do it to make everybody on property and everybody in the executive offices smarter, better at their jobs, make better decisions related to anything having to do with revenue attainment, and then subsequently enable the people on the front lines to engage with the guest in a meaningful manner, then whatever we had discussed back in 1997 and put it in a quick video will actually come true.
Love it.
In
You
fact,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. A few things that I caught off from what Alan was talking about. Agentics is going to change the way, if you think it through right, even from a loyalty management perspective. I may have gone to a famous casino slash resort in Vegas. A couple of times I've stayed there. Unless and until today, what happens is, unless and until I go into their application and download the application, I don't have a loyalty number.
Right.
The hotel has that information. Agentics can actually identify out of the millions of customers that they get on a yearly basis, how many of them are repeating. Oh, these guys have been repeating. Can I create a customer loyalty ID for them? Send them it through via email. And all that they have to do is click on the link and the app will be downloaded. As a result, just imagine registration or check-in process becomes so easy.
With our industry, we've tried really, really hard to make a seamless check-in environment, right? And the challenge that we have is not the application itself in order to check in, but then it's how do I get into my room? That is
the digital key thought process.
The digital key is a challenge because it takes time. If you use a regular key, like a plastic key with a chip in it, that will take you less than a second to open up your door. With your phone, it's taking you much longer than that.
Much longer, yeah.
And that's challenging because people these days don't have the attention span to deal with that and they get upset. So to your point, we should be able to follow through everything. And with location-based information, if I'm holding, that key, that there should be ways for us utilizing IoT to know that I've just gotten off the elevator, it's tracking me down the hallway, and then the door opens when I arrive. And it's doing facial recognition to make sure it's me in the first place. So there are just so many opportunities to be had. And with agentic AI, the way it's going to think about every industry is going to be really interesting to see what it comes up with, and the holes it'll poke in the way we've been doing business. So it'll be hugely important as we move forward.
The second
Right.
concept that you talked about, Alan, which interested me a lot because I've done that in my life in terms of hack the tail, the concept of vendor consolidation, the concept of identifying which vendor is giving me the best deal for the buck, um, based on a few factors, like in terms of consistently delivering, rates being compatible, quality being of good quality. These are things that you can utilize for the purposes of, and I did it in AI ML, and now with generative AI, it becomes much easier. Why? Because you have all the information, and as I said earlier, you already know what your critical suppliers are, whether it is
Mhm.
in the housekeeping or whether it is in food and beverages or whether it is in any other shape and form. Even in the sales and marketing realm, going back to my thought process of agentics creating that customer loyalty ID, and I do understand that facial recognition and digital key and all of that is going to happen sometime in the future. But then more importantly, for the sales and marketing community to come up and say that, hey, this is a customer that has been coming, and the 1997 example is great because you could link your travel along with your where you're staying and all of that. But
Mhm.
the whole idea is there are airlines today that have joined hands with a lot of hotel chains. And if I know that I'm going to be traveling through, say, an American or a United, and I know that, okay, in Hyatt is a recognized partner there, so that information can be transferred, obviously with privacy being kept in perspective, and you have to check in and check out in terms of
Yep.
CCP, GDPR, and all of that. Assume that there is a customer who has said that, okay, no problems, transfer my information. Now the airline will come to know if I'm going on the flight or not. Why? Because I check in, I board the flight, and the hotel will come to know that, hey, this guy is coming down, he's got a confirmation number with us. The ideal way of experience would be that, and some hotels are doing it, don't get me wrong, would be that I get into the hotel, through facial recognition or through personally going and standing in line, if my room key is already ready, instead
Mm.
of having to spend, say, about 30 minutes to 35 minutes in some of these large resorts and casinos, in Vegas at least, or in
Yep.
major casino areas in the world. You don't have to spend that time. There is,
No.
yeah, there is one
It's
more. There is one other topic where Al and I wanted to chime in and ask you about it
Mhm.
in terms of the whole thought process around securing the human face or human trafficking. Uh, from the perspective of most of these, for a lack of a better term, human trafficking happens predominantly where the hospitality industry is
Mhm.
often used. And what is your take in terms of how do we go about helping the society in terms of, because the events, I would not say the events, I would say that you can relay the events based on how the hotel was booked, how many people are there, what kind of a room are they asked for, what is the kind of food that they're ordering, is the mode of payment cash or credit card. Predominantly it's cash. So
Cash is usually the biggest thing, but with human trafficking, the AHLA the American Hotel and Lodging Association has a huge initiative to combat human trafficking. But to your point, what events take place that are trigger events that we could be notified, as a hotel owner or operator, to say this is suspected human trafficking. It could be length of stay. It could be number of people in the room. It even could be the frequency of the doors opening and closing, and recording that. And then once again, through any type of recognition software. And it is a challenge. And it's one that I know a number of associations are stepping up to try to combat. And I think technology will be of extreme importance in helping hoteliers deal with this and stop it from occurring. But right now, from my perspective, you theoretically could once again start querying the system based upon all the different elements or products that are on property, and try to take a look at all the metrics that what do the metrics look like when a room was utilized or a number of rooms were utilized for human trafficking versus what you're experiencing currently, and taking a look at the difference related to those metrics. So I'm sure there will be ways for excuse me, us to try to help associations like AHLA combat this through technology. I know that we're a member of that. I'm a member of AHLA myself. I'm not a member of that group, but I give them huge kudos for trying to tackle this.
Absolutely.
It's a huge challenge.
I think absolutely. And that's a great point in terms of just the unlimited applications, right, of AI, of technology, of data. I mean, if we want to bring it a bit back as we're coming to the end of the show to the revenue side of things,
Mhm.
I'm curious about how your tips, I guess, Alan, of how hotels could foster this culture of where their employees are confident, right, using data for whatever reason. I think that would be, but without feeling overwhelmed, or if there's any kind of skepticism or pushback out there that you'd like to maybe speak to.
Well, I think people in our industry are challenged with change. And that's normal. I don't think that's different from our industry to any other. I think there are individuals that say, no, I like it the way it is. I don't want to move forward. So it really needs to be a top-down, bottom-up scenario. As we look at individuals that are more amenable to dealing with change, then we have to go ahead and empower them to be the leaders that drive the hotels. So we want to be able to empower individuals. We want to be able to celebrate data informed decisions, right? And if we do that, and if they're utilizing data to help them with their jobs, we also need to be able to see or show them that we appreciate that. It's challenging within the hotel environment because there's been so much downward pressure on the human resource aspect of hospitality. It's hard to get people to do the jobs. At the same time, then we should be utilizing the technology and training them effectively on how technology can be used in order to make their lives easier, in order to help them engage with the guests. And if they're in frontline employees that get tips, the technology should be there to go ahead and help them. The technology should make recommendations based upon that guest about, what's their total lifetime value? What kind of spend are they looking at? What do they like to purchase outside of the hotel room? And giving them this information. So, for example, Kim, if you like a specific expensive wine from the Loire Valley of France, letting the individual know that serving you about that and saying, this is what you should recommend to Kim. So it really is that empowerment, engagement, and making sure that we're patting people on the back, and thus it's going to be amplified and utilized. But the upsell capability within the data itself is staggering. And then when you get into groups, how do I go ahead and leverage all the information around group information, and what can we do with that? How can we sell them more? How can we make sure that their stay is better? How can we proactively manage them through that? And how can we give them different rates as a group versus another group, because we know that last time they came, they spent a lot more money just on the external activities within the property. So there's lots of ways to do it, but ultimately you want to help people manage the process and help them be exposed to the process, and then give them a great old pat on the back, because everybody loves that.
Absolutely. You mentioned upselling here. for a way to improve data strategy um, and revenue strategy. But if those hoteliers out there who kind of feel a bit lost in the lake, swimming just barely, where would you say is a good place to start?
The best place to start, just to kind of dip your toe in it, is to play around with a generative AI tool. One of the best that I'm using currently is Perplexity, which is an amazing platform for me to query almost anything. And it's interesting. I'm also utilizing why can't I remember the name of it? Google's AI. It's on my phone. Just a sec. I've forgotten the name.
Gemini.
Gemini. Thank you. So I use Gemini. I did Gemini Live with part of our sales kickoff last week. And I started talking to it about the environment we're in. Tell me more about Infor Hospitality. Tell me more about what the goals are of the company, et cetera. And tell me how we can leverage the information at our hands, in our hands, to go ahead and be a better group of individuals. And through that entire time, I was just talking with the phone and it was giving me feedback. So Gemini is a great place, especially to use it live because it's really interactive and fun, and Perplexity is great, but people have to kind of jump in. If you dip your toe in it and pull back, the likelihood of you getting engaged is probably fairly low. But if you start using it, it's so amazing of what it can do for you. And even as, giving me outline topics for the next webinar, and this is the data element of it, but I really need, questions on what to do and how to do it. So there are just so many uses. And Perplexity, I'm a big fan. Gemini, I'm a big fan. And obviously ChatGPT is the biggest and the baddest, I guess you would call them.
All right. Nagarash, did you have a favorite?
No, I think
Yeah.
there's a library of LLMs that is available out there, and I particularly find Gemini very, very encouraging, as well as, of course, ChatGPT. We all know about it, but Claude is another platform that works effectively right. But it's all there in the way you apply. You need to see, there are multiple LLMs. There are, if I'm not mistaken, over 1,000 LLMs out there in the market that can be utilized. But the real thought process is you need to have a use case that you are tackling. Second is you need to know what data are you going to provide the LLM for it to get trained on. And third, more importantly, is in terms of how are you going to do the AI ops. When it comes to an LLM, the drift happens between 45 to 50 days, as against a 80 to 85th day in an AI ML model. The data drift happens. How do you bring back the LLM, retrain it with newer information, push it back into production, is something that is very, very critical from an operations standpoint. The second aspect, again, from the operation standpoint, is how is my cloud operating? What is my spend that that I'm doing, and how do I control those costs? There is a very, very specific within Alan, for your benefit also and for the audience benefit. We have an AI ops framework that we have created within Encora that not only looks at data operations, cloud operations, AI ML operations, and AI operations, all in one perspective, in a single pane of glass. And what we have added onto it is the whole concept of observability. Can I observe the entire data landscape or the entire ecosystem in order to ensure that it is producing what it should produce? Can it do root cause analysis? Can it tell me that, hey, this particular LLM is drifting even before it drifts? And that is where we are taking the technology to. But then, these are very, very valid points. Really, really love it.
Yeah,
As
it's very cool.
as we wrap up today, talking about drift and I think the unforeseen, I want to be able to bring to the table what some of our audience members have asked about. Earlier, as we were promoting the show, we did get a comment from Josh Godwin, and he was talking about all of the GPT and the LLMs and this shift, the impact on human intuition, the experience of crafting nuanced revenue strategies, and of course, dealing with the unforeseen, which also kind of, I think, connects to a question coming from a live audience member. This is Antonio Osuna, and he's asking, why has travel and hospitality endured harsh economical landscapes all over the world, and how has tech helped? I think this is the unforeseen piece. You can find anywhere from a motel all the way up to the all-inclusive, this type of example. So let's talk about the tech, the unforeseen, and adaptability real quick.
Well, our industry is crazy adaptable, right? We've made it through some fairly strong headwinds, even 08, 09 with the crash. Obviously, we have multiple issues, socioeconomic issues, global economic issues. We have wars in multiple regions. We have conflict locally. And what has never really veered off course is the hospitality industry, whether it was hotels, whether it was restaurants and bars or entertainment outlets, or whether it was conference centers. What we tend to, the reason the hospitality industry is so amazing is it's about people. And when you look at how have we endured and why are there so many different segments in the market and all that stuff, it really is because it's about people, and people are not the same. People like different things. People have certain budgetary restrictions. People have certain roaming restrictions. Where can I go? How do I get there? Do I drive? Do I fly? Do I take a train? And through all of this, we've been able to create an environment of multi-segmented travel. And so when we look at the individual industry as a whole, we've been able to do amazing things because the people that run those properties or restaurants or anything are primarily hospitality folks, and they love the industry and they're passionate about it. And the people that stay at their properties or go to dinner at their restaurants love to be served. And I think that element is the coolest thing about our industry is we need to get back to that level of service. And whether it's a retail outlet or whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a hotel, we've kind of lost a bit of that as of late. And I think it's due to the multiple factors that are impacting everybody. So we're a little bit disconnected, but it's also, we're buried in technology. So if we enable people to actually do the job they want to do, which is that service job, and engage with the guest, or check out somebody at a grocery store, or you name it, then we're going to do much better as an industry, and the industries that surround us. Because wherever there's an individual making a decision, a gut decision about a rate, or whether there's an individual that's checking you out, or whether there's an individual that's checking you in, at the end of the day, if we empower them to serve and make the right decisions, then the industry will flourish. I love this industry. I've been in it for so many years, but I've been in it for the people. Technology to me is an enabler. It's almost secondary to the people that we work with and the people that we work for, and the companies that we work for. It's an awesome space to live.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. That is a wrap for today's episode here on Dojo Live. Well, yeah, we're at the end. Can you believe it? It's a big thank you, Alan, for sharing all about data literacy, why it's important to hospitality operations. Before we go, if our audience would like to learn more from you or about Infor, how might they go about doing that?
LinkedIn is the easiest way. Just connect to me on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile is just Alan Young, and look for info and you'll find me. That's the easiest way.
Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you also, Nagarash, and thank you to our sponsor, Ancora, for making these conversations possible. As a reminder, Ancora does partner with leading travel and hospitality companies to accelerate innovation through world-class engineering solutions. Now, if you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you did, be sure to follow Dojo Live for more insights from industry leaders. Of course, you can find our past episodes and stay updated on what's coming at our website, dojo.live, at LinkedIn and elsewhere. And about what's next coming up tomorrow, February 20th, that's tomorrow, Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, we're going to be diving into how hotels can shift from reactive RFP management to proactive revenue capture with automation and instant booking. That's with Christy White of Groups 360.
And
So
Christy's
until then,
awesome. She's amazing.
she's amazing. Yes, thank you, Alan. I know. I told you Alan knows everyone.
Well,
Until then, stay curious, stay innovative, and bye for now.
thanks, Kim.